right? Which it's kind of a little rigid, I guess you could say, or maybe not so fluid. But we'll talk about creating some more fluid movements after that. All right, so the first thing to do would be to take this image, and this is a good practice too. If you do like to draw, but you don't want to necessarily like do a lot of rigging and things like that, this would be a good way to do this. So if we just save this image, and then if we open it in Photoshop, then we can do some modification to get that on its own, or all the poses on their own layer. Alright, so my Photoshop is opening. Alright, so I'm going to open this desktop image that I just saved there. Alright, so you have all these layers here, or you have this one layer. Alright, and I would suggest using the quick selection tool.
Lewis, can you send me your Photoshop video to Google Drive?
It's on Friday's blog, that picture.
Oh, you just click there?
Yep, and you can save the image.
Photoshop file.
Character animators here in Google Classroom.
This picture is in the blog, alright? So if you go to Friday, or Thursday rather, just right click on here and do save image as. Alright, so we use the quick selection tool to highlight all that character in here, and then we're just going to right click it and say layer via cut. So what it's doing is it actually cut it out of that background picture. Oop, and I got a little extra here, so I can just delete this too. The whole thing with this quick selection tool is if I come in here now, I can see, oh, I didn't get my foot on there either.
Yeah.
All right, so what I can do is I can go back to this layer. That's where it started. All right. Now, keyboard shortcuts, if I press Alt, it takes away from the selection. It turns that to a minus. So I'm going to try to clean this up a little bit. So now, in this case, I'm going to do a cut to take it out of that layer. Now I'm going to select this layer and edit paste special, paste into place. It puts it back in the same spot there. It didn't make a new layer. Alright, so, and then I would have to merge this down, which is a Control E. Alright, so this is what we want. We want to have this whole character on this layer. Alright, I'm going to go to, and then we would ideally want to name these layers also. So this is called Contact. Alright, because that's going to bring that stuff into Animate named in that way. You just double click to rename. Alright, so now I'm going to, if you didn't quite see how I did this the first time, I'm going to keep repeating with the other poses. So watch what I'm going to do this time around, all right? So I'm going to go on to this next pose here.
How do you get a picture?
Why is my thing not going?
You right-click it from the blog and save
I'm
it.
getting real mad. I'm not photo computer.
All right, so again, here we go. Now I want to get this pose. So I'm selecting this layer because that's where the picture is. If I try to choose this layer, there's nothing in here on that layer. So you have to make sure you have the right layer selected. Now I'm just going to go in here and I can make sure I have everything selected here, which it looks like I got it all now. And then again, right click, layer via cut. So I can see I have layer 1 here, which would be this high pose as it's called. Alright, and then kind of continue on there. So I'm going to do one more and then I'll come back around. So we want to select from the background. We have our passing pose here that we're going to try to manipulate. Alright, so I have it selected, layer via cut, and then I would call this one passing. Alright, so I'm about halfway done here now. So I can see that that's on that layer, that's on that one. Oop, I missed a part there, so Gotta go back to here.
See that?
Yeah, okay, what now?
The hair right here. See? No, look. See? Yeah, 'cause you don't want to look too much. Let me brush your hair. You don't brush your hair. Why don't you brush your hair?
All right,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I have 1, 2, 3. I need 2 more over here, right?
Didn't you have both contacts?
Yeah. Because if you notice, look, in this one, the right leg is forward. On this one, the right leg is back. So they are different, right?
Is there a reason why like my retarded tools acting different now?
How's it acting differently?
Okay.
Do you have the right layers selected? Each time you have to go back to the background layer to do your selection.
Oh, maybe.
Because that picture is only on your background. Once we cut it out, right? The thing you're trying to look for is only in the background
Why
layer.
is it connecting everything? Oh, it's being weird.
All right, so I have low,
It like. Okay, I'm not doing
and then I'm gonna go back my last one here, and I can make this a little smaller in here.
I think I messed up.
Well, it can always be fixed, I think.
Yo, Aaron, do me a favor. Stop copying me.
All right, so here is, I'm gonna call this walking sequence.
No, Aaron, you really are being fake because I don't like her.
Nah, you're leading her on.
All right, so when this is done, we're just saving this as our Photoshop document. All right, so once we're done in Photoshop preparing this, and this kind of shows you that you could draw something on paper and then go in and do a scan and then bring it in from there, and should all work pretty much the same way.
I knew it was
All right, so if I go into, actually, I'm going to make this all comprehensive. I'm actually going to do this, what's called in the scene editor. I'm going to make some new scenes here, but you guys aren't going to be doing this right now, or maybe we will. So this is going to be, I'll just say from Photoshop. All right, so when we create our new document, we're going to use that film and video preset, the 1920 by 1080. All right, and then I'm just going to import to the library my Photoshop file. Right. When you bring it in, it's going to ask you which layers you want to have in here. And we are going to choose all those except for our layer 0 there.
Are we doing an ActionScript 3.0?
Yes, always ActionScript 3.0. All right, so once you have this in here, you're going to have a folder here that has all those poses in there. I'm just going to rename this. And what we want to do is start with just the first pose, which I guess would be this contact, the left one I'm going to say here, all right? So in Animate, thank you. Oh, I lost a leg, I think, there. That's not good. All right, let me fix mine here. I'm gonna fix my leg. I lost that. That's weird. It was in. Maybe I brought in the wrong file, because that definitely has the right one there. Walk sequence AM. That's what I want here. File, import to library. There we go. Thought that looked odd.
Bruh.
All right, so once we have this in here, as we said, we're going to bring in this first pose. There he is. All right, now, the big thing with this is we want this whole thing to be moving across the stage. We're going to do a timeline within a timeline. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to convert this to a movie clip. So I'll just call this. I'll show you that in a second. You can just zoom out and make the whole thing smaller afterwards,
What
or
template is it?
it's not. It's the film and video preset.
Action script 3.0.
So as soon as I bring in my first pose, this left one, I'm going to make it into a movie clip. All right, and if you did want to resize, you have the third tool down, your free transform tool. I'm going to wait and transform it afterwards, because when I bring in all the other poses, then they're going to be different sizes. So once I've made my movie clip, I can double click it, and now I have my sub timeline, my secondary one. You just press F8 or go to modify and convert to symbol, and it's a movie clip.
I'm getting real mad.
All right,
Why is my thing not going?
and so here, this is only going to take me about 2 minutes. Let's all just watch this, and then I'll come back and I'll do it again. All right. So I brought in my first pose. I turned it into a movie clip by pressing F8, and now in my sub timeline, I can tell I'm inside the movie clip itself now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the onion skinning. Then I'm going to insert a blank keyframe. And what the onion skinning does is it allows you to see the frames before and after. All right, I can see here my next pose is the low pose. So I'm going to drag this over. All right, and now I can see that it's lined up onto here, which I don't know. I guess that would kind of be the right pose there. And then repeat. So the frame 3 is to put in another blank keyframe. And then my next pose from there is the passing. All right, I'll repeat for the next one. Insert blank keyframe. And I guess we can look in here too. So then high and then contact.
So wait, how did you get the onion skin?
Right down here in the bottom is your onion skin. It's like next to this loop option. It's kind of small. It's like towards the bottom here. It's the one that has like the double kind of, right? Do you see this one here, Mike? It's to the right of the one with the it's the looping one. Okay.
Hey, what did you say to her now? She's typing now? She said, why are you lying?
All right, so here's all of our poses, and when we play this, I can turn off the onion skinning. We'll see him kind of walking in place.
It looks
And
like he's jumping.
if we loop him,
Oh, I see now.
he's actually like running, right?
He looks like he's speed walking away from the cops.
All right, so let's try to get everybody to this point, all right?
Shut up.
And then we'll just about be done with that. So I'm going to save this. All right,
See, I got very lost.
all right. So the first thing you want to do is import the Photoshop file.
Oh, from Photoshop, import, and then export it in this.
Well, did you save your Photoshop? We're going to import into Animate.
I saved it as well.
All right, as long as you know where it is.
I saved it before. So I'm just gonna import and then put it in the.
So yeah, you're going to import into, go to Animate and import in there. Yes.
I thought you said import it in Photoshop first.
Import it into Animate from Photoshop. So go to Animate and then File Import. So that's your symbol extension.
Yeah.
Double click that.
Is it stage?
No, library. Alright, so see here now we're in the symbol editor, which is in the scene, right? So go to your frame 2. Right click. Right click. Insert blank keyframe. And now, where's your next pose? I think it's is it the low one?
Yeah.
Alright, so drag that over and put it on top of there, right, and line it up. Alright, so open up the folder. So the first one was the contact with the right leg back, I think. Try this one.
No, that one's this one? Or
I
this
think that's the first one there, that one, right?
This one was the first one.
That's the one on
because
the
I put
left,
two
right?
T's, because the last one says contact too. So I put contact first one, so I
Alright,
put
we'll
that
drag
one.
that onto your stage. Yep. No. So
And then-
now, hold on, we're gonna convert this to a movie clip. So F8, or modify and then convert. Movie clip, and you can call it something like walk. Movie, that's fine. Now double click that. So now we're within that movie clip, which is within the scene. So go to frame 2.
Would drag this or just
No, just click in there. Click on frame 2. Right click, insert blank keyframe, and then
whoa.
so now you're on frame 2, and that's what we're saying. If you click this thing here, one more to the left. There it is. So it's going to show you the frame before. So now, what was the next pose?
A high.
Alright, so drag that over.
Wait.
You can look back at Photoshop if you want. That'll show you like the full thing, right? Yeah, so, no, low.
Low.
So grab low, drag that over so it's kind of like
Right here?
on, yep. So you want them to kind of line up. Right? And then repeat. So frame
So do
3.
it right here?
Yep, insert a blank frame and blank keyframe in frame 3 and then drag in the next pose.
Alright, I'm here.
Alright. Glad to see you here. Alright, so we want to drag in your first pose, which should be that contact one up there. So drag that over. And now we're going to make a movie clip out of that. This is kind of like what we did with your little character. Remember you had that? So F8. Alright, you want it to be a movie clip, you can name it. Alright, so now double click that. So now we're in that movie clip editor. Click on frame 2 on your timeline.
Right here?
Right click it. Insert a blank keyframe. Okay, now what's the next pose?
Are we doing all of them?
Yeah.
It would be, would it be low?
Background is trying to show you. Yep. So drag that over right on top.
Oh, that's good.
We can go and modify that. Now, alright, I think you did something, let's go back. You didn't put in a blank keyframe. There it is. So click on frame 2, you see this guy, insert frame. Insert blank keyframe. And if you want to see the alignment, you click on this little thing here, that one to that frame. So it's going to show you that little frame before. First low, right? Yep. Change everything? Well, here's the main scene. So go back to that frame 1. Is that a movie clip? So double click it. Now you're in the subject. So
I was
frame.
continuing to do the
Yep.
same thing.
So insert blank keyframe, drag in your next pose. Good. Movie clip. Okay, so you see how this is working. Looks like you got the same thing going there. We got it. Up and down one, try this one instead. And now you can see those previous frames. So we're in movie clip editor. Alright, so you have your blank keyframes, you just have to hit your button here, click on frame 2.
I'm just, you can see it.
And now, you have the outline, I mean, so you press this one.
Whoa.
I did that
You can
twice.
actually see the artwork in there. So what's the next pose? I think it's low.
Why does it do that?
So drag
Say
low
it's
over.
like-
Yeah.
Line it up for that.
I already put them all together, so. It's done, though. It's just a demo on it.
And then
should be lean shield.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
definitely
so
want
imagine the damage I
What do
can
you
do.
do when you're looking through the timeline? It's just showing each frame. Yep.
I had to tell.
Wow. Just tell that to her face.
That's okay. I said, give me.
Just be like, yo,
I
Casey.
said, be Aaron. She said, okay.
Yeah, just be like, yo, Casey. You're like nothing compared to
Isn't
me.
Kay like tiny though?
Isn't Casey like can't fight and looks like she's a bumper?
Apparently Casey can fight.
Who says? Her?
Yeah.
Yeah, she probably like scratches and bites.
So I'm like, let me go get high first.
Sounds like how she describes her having sex with her fiance.
Are they not together though? Because I saw her on her story that they're like.
Oh, was that yesterday?
Yeah.
That's him?
Yeah.
He's a
He is.
You know why?
He's so cute.
Then they're made for each other.
Don't worry about it.
Alright. How do I do it like that? How do you make it a loop? And if you would make it a loop.
I'm getting confused on
Yeah,
why
I
this
think
is
you
not
can draw
working.
better in Photoshop.
You're in the right direction.
Where's the loop button?
All right. So what we're seeing now,
So this is the reason why it's like this. Every single time I play it.
Yes.
Three.
Three or two frames. So it's just showing those two frames there. You have to get the other three in there. You see how that one, it's like an empty circle?
What do you mean? I just put something there,
Why
didn't I?
is it on stream?
What? I don't think so.
Oh, you know?
You have one.
Yeah, she's my cat.
Oh,
Oh,
okay. This one
okay
you have
then.
one overlapping.
Yeah, I think I was trying to put that one right there.
So if you do.
Oh my god. Why does that look good? Kevin.
No. Yeah, then I feel like that's.
Sounds like a license.
I feel like that's your weed. That's not my knee. That's not my knee. This is my
It
knee.
looks like you
Mhm.
though.
It looks like you. That's it.
Every single time I bring something in here, I have to
Damn.
click this
you
blank
hear
one
that?
and then
Kevin
insert.
is calling you slow.
Yeah, you have to make a new. The empty keyframe is like a
So
placeholder,
before I do that, do I click this one first?
right? And then
Hold on.
you insert
Hang on.
one keyframe.
And then I drag this one?
Yes.
This is my knee.
I
Wait.
think I did something wrong.
and you can turn that onion skinning back on to see for positioning. All right, so right now we have this thing where if we play it, it's gonna walk in place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Looks like
Oh,
that.
I'm on the wrong scene. I'm getting a little ahead. This is what we're gonna try to work on today. Why are we not seeing that scene?
I thought you wanted us to work on our missing work today.
I do.
Best example of the bone tool, happy wheels. You're
All right, so now that we have this walking in place, all right, because if I double click this, I can see him walking in place. Or I'll turn off my bone tool there or my onion skinning. Now we want him to walk across the stage. So all we're going to do is we're going to kind of move him to the side so that he starts a little bit off center. And then what did we do to make a motion tween before? For some simple things. That's it. Right click, create motion tween. And then now we'll just have this kind of move to the end here. And now we can see this motion guide. Now I'm going to have some extra stuff here, I think. But there he goes. He's walking across. He's a little bit fast though, right? Or I know mine is at least. So what we could do is we could extend this down. Maybe over 2 seconds. And what you'll notice is if we just play this in the player here, within Animate, it's not really it's not applying that nested timeline into there, right? Bless you. So what we have to do is we do our Control Enter, and now we can see him walking across a little bit better. Which maybe even find that that's even too fast. So maybe we can extend it to 3 seconds. Let's see how that looks. All right, but that is the basics of how to make a timeline within a timeline. All right, so we could export that today.
So how did you do the motion screen again? Because I selected it.
So I had them starting here, right? All I did was I right-clicked in my frame and said create motion tween. Which actually, let's see if I remove my motion, right? Or if I go back. So all I did, Mike, is I right-clicked on this frame and said create motion tween. And then I moved to the end of the range and move this over. Now we can see our line. And I'll extend this like to 3 seconds.
Good fool. As soon as it's not working.
We're going to export this. So we can do file, export, video. And we will use the Adobe Media Encoder, so make sure this box is checked off.
Alright, you forgot the motion thing.
Now, I have multiple scenes, so let's see.
What the hell?
I'm going to have it all together, I think.
Zoomed all the way out. You moved it in the same frame.
Why doesn't it like that?
It's